Hello, hello. How's it going? So I've had this channel for quite a while, and I've mostly pasted art on here, and I'm shocked and elated that I have 100 subscribers at this point, which is incredibly exciting. Um, but I've been starting to do streams and starting to branch out and play games and stream those. Um, and as you can tell, I have this cool new avatar, which is very cool. Um, and I've been making a lot of assets for other people to make avatars in this program called VRoid. And if you're here because you see my shit on Booth, and you're like, wow, how the fuck do you get these wings to work? Because when I put them on my model, they swing all over the place with my hair, and I don't want that. So I was like, oh, I know how to do that, and I can explain it fairly well. So why don't I do that? So if you're here and you're used to me not talking and just drawing, welcome to the new era. I was previously Might Be Magic on YouTube, and now I'm Ambrosia because that's my new hashtag brand. Um, but yeah, let me explain how to do wings in VRoid because it seems scarier than it actually is. It's actually very, very straightforward. Um, all you need is VRoid, your wings set up in VRoid, and Unity. And if Unity scares you, do not fret. I will do my best to explain things, and if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out and ask me them in the comments. I will do my best to explain and reply. Because I get it. You hear Unity and you're like, oh, that's a game engine. That means code, right? Don't worry. It's so much easier than you can ever imagine. So first we're gonna pop over to VRoid. And this is important because in VRoid you have to do like a few things to make sure that you don't completely screw this up before you even get into Unity. And it's pretty simple. So you want your wings, and if you've never made wings in VRoid, you literally just make them out of hair and shape them however. There's plenty of tutorials that explain this perfectly well. It's a lot visual. It's very visual. The part they don't tend to not explain as well though is the Unity part, and that's where I'm coming in because I know Unity. I am a game developer, and I can explain all of that really, really easily. So make sure you have your wings all set up in here. The wings I actually have are a little bit more complicated than most just because I was basing these off of wings in a game that I play. And these wings are actually up on my Booth account, which will be one of my links in the description, so feel free to check them out. The textures are free. If you want this exact style of wings, this preset, I've actually uploaded that as well, but that's more of like a little bonus thing I give to people who give me money. In US dollars, I think it's like about $2.50, but it's in Japanese yen because that's what Booth works in. But yeah, these are just all hairs set up the way exactly how I want them. And they're also all boned. They're pretty simple though. I don't do too much bones. Like these kinds of settings for a bone for all of the wings usually works just fine. And if you want to make sure that your bones work, you can always test them in the pose and animation. But they're gonna look funky because if you come over here and you do, let's say, running, oh, that doesn't do it as much. Wow. There we go. Yeah, see how the wings just kind of clip into the body, and they don't look right because right now VRoid thinks they're attached to the head. And we want to fix that so that they're not attached to the head, and that's where Unity comes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to export, and this is very important. Uncheck enable hair combination under material reduction. What this does is when this is enabled, all of the hair strands that you've made in VRoid will combine, and it'll make the model like less chunky, less stuff that it has to remember because it doesn't keep all of these hair pieces as separate objects, but it means you cannot do any editing to them separately in Unity, and we need them to be separate because typically you'll have hair on your model in addition to wings, which I don't have here because this is my testing model. But you want to make sure that your wings are separate from your hair, and that's important. And it's actually important for these ones as well because I actually have two different textures here that I'm using. So you're just gonna hit export, whatever you set these wings as, or these settings as, it doesn't matter. I gotta sneeze. Sorry, I sneezed. Doesn't matter, hit OK, save it wherever you want. And I'm just gonna save it to my downloads folder because I'm lazy. So it just takes a moment to export and then we're good. And I'm gonna open up Unity now, which takes forever and a day on this computer, so I'm gonna pause the recording. Okay, so before we hop into Unity, the way Unity works nowadays is there's a hub that you download, and then in that download hub, you will be able to download different versions of Unity. And this is important because in things like Unity, when you're programming, the versioning of everything you use is actually super important. The difference between versions could mean you have different crashes, different bug reports, different things just happening. So it's really important to keep track of that. And as you can see here, I have a couple different versions of Unity. And the one we'll actually be using is Unity 2019.4.14 F1. And that's important because the packages that we'll be installing in this, they will actually require specific versions of Unity, and both of the packages that we'll be using are stable in this version of Unity. So I would make sure to use this specific version just because I can promise you if you run into a crash or something, you'd be able to contact the creators of both of these packages and they would probably be able to figure out what's going on with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to click new, and oh, it went over to my other screen. And you can put this project wherever you want. I recommend putting it in a place where you'll remember where it is because Unity projects can get a bit bulky, and also like Unity Hub will remember where your project is and you don't have to worry about it, but like if you decide to move it somewhere else, you'll have to tell Unity Hub where that is. But they have all these different versions and you don't really need to worry about that. They default to 3D. You name it whatever you want, just make sure you name it what you intend. And you want to also make sure that the version up here is the one that you're wanting. And this is the one we're wanting, so we're fine here. And you just hit create. And it's going to take a bit, depending on your computer specs, to actually create this project, to create all the things you need inside of it. So I'll take a bit, I'll let it run, I'll come back when it's done. Okay, so when you open up Unity, when you've made your project, and when you open up the project, this is what it looks like. There's bunch of boxes everywhere. There's all these words and you might not know what they mean, and that's okay. Do not fret. Give me a moment and I shall explain it all to you. Down here at the bottom, this is your assets and just anything that's like attached to the project that you imported into the project. That's going to appear down here. You have a little folder hierarchy here that you can see, and then when you open up a folder you'll see information in here such as it might be images, it might be 3D models, it might be materials, even script files go down here, and you can organize this however you want. And when you go into your project in like File Explorer or something, the assets hierarchy will match that with your directories and folders in there. Over on this side, you have this tab called the hierarchy, and the hierarchy is all of the objects in your scene. The scene is this big thing in the middle. This is essentially the space you're working in currently. You can kind of think of it almost as like a layer in an art program, because you can combine scenes or you can just have one scene, but it's 3D and you have more objects than just PNGs or flat layers in there. by default, Unity will open up with one sample scene, uh, and in that sample scene, you'll have a camera, which will just be a basic camera. And on this side, this tab is the inspector. It tells you information about the object, such as where it is, how it's rotated, how it's scaled. And then these other things in here, these are called components. And components in Unity are basically, let's say you write some code to tell your character how it moves. You can then attach that code to a specific object in the hierarchy, which would in this case be your player character, and then it would appear on this side as a component. And then if you had any options, like for example, the speed of your character that you had added into the code, it would appear here like these do. And most of that isn't quite relevant to what you'll be doing here today because that's scripting and game development, and we don't really need to deal with that too much. But I feel like people get really overwhelmed by all the information on the screen, and hopefully explaining a few of these things as we go might help you feel a little less daunted by everything that's going on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import a package called Unity VRM, and I will include a link to this in the description below because if you're doing anything with VRoid models, you will need this package. And in general, anything that is a .vrm file, which is basically a character avatar that's designed to work with either stuff like what is it called? VC Face, which is what I'm using, or other programs that help you capture your face, or even stuff where it's virtual reality avatars. That's what VRM is used for, and that is a type of model. And that's this package lets us import these objects into Unity and not just absolutely fucking break everything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here and let me remember where it is. It's under Assets, Import Package. And then we're going to click Custom Package because that's what we're importing. And what we want is this package called Unity VRM, and it's whatever is the most recent version, probably. I'm using 0.70.0, DB1B. Hopefully I read that correctly. And we're just going to click that, and the file that you're going to specifically be importing is going to have a .unity package extension. And that's the type of it. It's a Unity package file. It's designed to be imported into Unity. And you're going to open this, and it's going to start loading it in. And then it's going to come up with this box that has just like a bunch of gibberish in it and an OK import button, essentially. And it, of course, went onto my other screen again. And basically, what this is the structure, the file structure of all the files you're about to bring into this Unity project. And if you're smart and you know what's happening here, and you know that, oh, you don't need file A or file B, you can uncheck them in here. I don't do it. I won't recommend you uncheck anything in here because both you and I don't know what any of this shit is doing, and whoever made this is smarter than us. So we're just gonna hit import, and we're gonna let Unity bring everything in rather than accidentally delete something important, because that can and will happen, and I've done it to myself before. So it's gonna take a bit of time, and once it loads in, it's going to drop it into the assets folder, and if it's nice to me, it'll put it in a folder that's specific to Unity VRM, and if it's not nice to me, it's not going to do that. I actually set up a specific Unity project so I wouldn't have to do this every single time, and once you follow along with this tutorial, if you make sure to save your Unity project, you literally will not have to do any of this setup again. You can just open it up, drop your new avatar in, and fix it. And it didn't. Now the nice thing is, none of these things need to be in a specific spot in your hierarchy of folders, so we're just going to make a quick folder in here and call it Unity VRM, and we're going to drop all of these bad boys in there because we want to be organized here. So now we have all this stuff in here, and we're going to ignore most of it because we don't need to deal with it. And oh, it's angry at me. Oh, the site said something about this. Hang on a second. If you run into any problems, the site that you install Unity VRM from, it has a few things in there to explain things. So it says, okay, project settings. I think that's under edit. Yeah, project settings. It's an edit. You go all the way down here, click that. Of course, it puts it on my other desktop screen. Oops, I didn't mean to put that in there. No. We want that a separate thing. And it says player, which is right here. Other settings, which is here. And scripting runtime version, we want that to be different. Wow, this text is like super tiny. I don't see it. Maybe I'm blind. We want .NET 4 equivalent, but I'm not actually seeing the option they're telling me to change. Uh-oh. Oh, I think it's this. I think it's API compatibility level, maybe? Because that's .NET 4. Well. Maybe I missed it, though. I'm gonna double check just one more time. Again, all of these options are important because they will affect literally everything. Maybe it's in here? Nope. Okay. We're just gonna assume that that's what they wanted me to change, and hopefully everything will be fine. If you're running into errors, it's usually going to pop up down here in the console. The console will just log information for you, like errors. Sometimes it'll just be like, oh, you did a debug log, so we're gonna put that information down here. 9 times out of 10, if it's not crashing and you're still getting the result you want and it throws an error and it puts it down there, just don't worry about it. Don't ask me why it still works. It just usually does. But now that we have that, we can add or we'll have this new option up here that says VRMO. Actually, that's a 0, not O. And you can click import, and it'll pop up a little import thing, and we can find our .vrm file, and we can open that, and then it'll let us put it wherever we want in assets, which is nice because I like to be organized. I like to make an avatars folder, and then in this avatar folder, I will make a folder for each individual avatar. So this is the lady test. She's the avatar I usually use for making wings and testing things out on her. So we're going to save that, and it'll take a moment to spin around and make all of the different assets it needs based on this package, which whatever genius made this, thank you, you're amazing. 10 out of 10. We're going to let it spin, and then it's going to spit a whole bunch of different assets and materials and objects, and it's going to create a prefab of this avatar. And once it finishes spinning, I will show you what a prefab is and kind of what it does in Unity. Prefabs are actually super important when you're doing game development or anything like that, because it lets you take an object that you may have put a bunch of different objects on and made like a big multi-object in your scene, and it lets you use that as an individual object essentially, and it looks like it's done. So we'll go in here, and we'll go in here, and you see all these folders, all of them are important. Don't delete them. You need them. I promise you that. But then we have this here, and you can kind of see the avatar in there, and you'll see that it says it's a prefab. And basically what this is you can click on it and drag it all the way over here. You can drag it into the scene too, but then it'll place it weirdly in the scene, and I just recommend dragging it just straight over here, and it'll do a little line thing to say that you're doing it at the bottom. And you can drag it there, and you'll see there's a little arrow here, and if you just hit all these drop downs, you'll see all of these objects in here. And this is important because this is what the prefab is for. It has all of the different hairs, all of the different bones, both the ones you've made in the hairs and the ones that VRoid by default puts on your model, from the legs and arms and fingers and head. And it has the face, which will have all of the expressions you have. It'll have all the materials attached. Basically, what you don't have to do now is set up this entire model. You just have it already set up, already in place, everything that you need. And this is great because it makes everything we're about to do so much easier, because otherwise it would be a pain in the ass. So the first thing you're going to do is, because of the way that prefabs work in Unity, you're going to have to come over here, and where it says prefab, under the name and the tag and the layer, you're going to hit open here. And now you're in the mode where, instead of editing the specific instance of that prefab, kind of like when you make a duplicate of something, that duplicate is now a separate instance, even though it has all of the same kind of just details and stuff as the original. We want to edit the original because that means anytime we edit a copy of this prefab, it'll already have all these details we added to it. And that's kind of a shitty way of explaining it. Basically, you want to be in prefab mode and you don't want to be in your scene. And when you switch to prefab mode, it'll actually drop down everything in here, which is both great and annoying at the same time. So when we're in here, we're going to go to each of these hair joints that are attached to the head, and we're just going to close them up because we don't need all the gory details. We just need the base of each hair joint. And you'll see there's a bunch in here because I made a bunch of hairs. And typically, you'll also see all the hairs that are on your avatar's head, and you'll actually have to go in and make sure you're actually messing with the wing hairs. And you can do that because, oops, sorry, zoomed in a little too far. You'll notice that when you click on each of these hair joints, it'll put this little thing that's basically an XYZ mover, and this is the actual hair joint for the bone of the wing, and you'll be able to move it around with these, and you can rotate it if you go into rotate mode, and it'll let you rotate each of the wing joints. But we're not going to mess with that. We just need to make sure we're actually messing with the wings and not a hair piece. And that's not important here because all of these are wing pieces and not hair. But it will be for you when you have a bunch of hairs and a bunch of wing pieces. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're working with the right pieces. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to come back to assets, and we're going to come back to import package. And we're going to import the second package that we need for this. And this package is... Nope, let's go to downloads. This package is called Unity Bone Weight Transfer, and I'll also put a link to this in the description below. You can find it on Booth, and it is free, just like Unity VRM. And this person is also a genius. Unfortunately, though, most of it is in Japanese, I believe, so you won't be able to read all of the text in the menu, but that is okay, because I will tell you what you need to do and where you need to put things. So we're going to also import this package, and it's a lot simpler. It's just a script file. That's what .cs means. And we're going to import that, and hopefully it will not put it in lady test. Okay, good. It put it back in assets, which is where we want to organize things. And you'll come up here to tools, and it'll now say bone weight transfer, and that's what you want. And of course, it puts it on my other display. Here it is. And it's a very simple menu. It only has 3 things, and these are all game objects. A game object in Unity is essentially literally anything you can see in a hierarchy over here on the object hierarchy. That's a game object. That's all you need to know. All of these are game objects. Every piece of your model is going to be a game object. And what you want to do is, this top one is whatever you want to change where it's going to be attached to. So we're going to drag one of these hairs and we're going to put it in there. The second one is whatever this object is currently attached to, and in this case, all your hairs are going to be attached to the head. You're going to put that there. And this bottom one is where you want it to be attached to. So we're going to do this for all of the bone hair joints that are in this, at the root of this Uh, and we're gonna attach these to the upper chest, because that's typically where I attach them, and it seems to work, so we're gonna just assume that works. Uh, and then you'll hit this button, which I'm guessing is just saying something like submit or confirm. So, but that's only my best guess because I can't translate any of this. So we're gonna do that for every single hair joint. And the nice thing is it doesn't clear the menu, and you're gonna just be doing this for all of these hairs. So you're gonna go through and you're gonna drag every single one to this top bit, and you're gonna do it for every single one. And it is very important that you do it for every single one. And you have to do them individually because this doesn't let you. I'm doing the same one over and over again. It doesn't let you drag a bunch of them in a row, even though you can select multiple objects. Here, let's do that. You have to do them just once in a row. And as you can see, it's throwing exceptions here. Don't worry about these. Everything's fine. It's just because these are all bone joints and they are not the actual wing that it's like, oh my gosh, where's the thing that makes this actually show up in Unity? We don't see it. You're doing this wrong. It's okay. You're doing this right. Everything's fine. Unity is just lying to you. And do not fret. That happens to the best of us. So we're gonna just keep going. Because these wings are complicated, I have so many freaking hair joints in here. But that's okay. I just dragged the same one again. This is what happens when you don't pay attention. Okay, and that is all of the bone joints, the pieces that make the wings do the little wobble thing whenever you move around. What we also have to do is we have to do this to the actual wing object, and that's going to be down here in this hairs object, which is separate from the root object. And this is actually going to select the actual wing piece. And you don't have to change both the root of where it is or the root of where it's going to go, which is the head and the upper chest. You just have to drag each of these hairs to that as well. And you may have noticed that all of these hair pieces and all of these bone pieces did not retain the names that they had in VRoid, and it's unfortunate, but that just does happen, and there's nothing you can really do about it. You could rename all of them in Unity, but it's not really worth it to me, since literally the only thing you'll probably be doing in here is this. And if you're really confused about something, you can click on all these objects in this editor here as well. I just find it easier to go down the list and drag each one of these in there individually. Oops, I did that one already. And you'll notice these ones aren't throwing errors because they do actually have a material and a display component on them in Unity. Oops. And that should be all of them. I might have missed one, but that's okay. We're not going for perfection here. And once you've done all of this, you can close this. Now, for these wings in particular, which I do have on my booth, if you want to download the textures for them for free, I do have something special about this material. And that is, when you see it in VRoid and when you see it in Unity for the first time, you'll notice it's kind of cut out, but if you look at the material itself, it actually has like a glowing fade effect on it. Or the texture, not the material. So if you want to bring that back for this material, or if you did this with your own materials and you noticed they looked wonky in VRoid, all you have to do is you have to figure out which folder here has the materials in it, and you can see the full name of it down here. Like, this is the textures, this is the meta objects, this is the meshes, here's the materials. They also have the blend shapes, which is all of the facial expressions that your model has. This is avatar description apparently, which I've never looked in, and this is the avatar, which I'm assuming is the VRM model stuff that I don't feel like messing with anytime soon. But we're gonna go in here in materials, and you'll see that all of your textures for all the different parts are all split up in here, and you can mess with them individually. You can actually replace the texture in here if you need to change it after you've exported your model. And we're going to go to this one because this is the star streak texture that I have made. And if you look over here, VRM has its own set of shaders, and you'll see that it has rendering type under this rendering mode thing, and it has cutout. Basically what this does is if a pixel on your texture has transparency, it's going to assume that that pixel is completely transparent. If it's completely opaque, it'll leave it as completely opaque. And what we want to do is we want it to change to transparent. And what that'll do is it'll, instead of assuming anything with any transparency at all is completely transparent, it'll be its actual transparency as you intended it. There's another mode here that's opaque, and that just says all of the pixels exist. If it's transparent, it's black. And we don't want to do that because that's ugly as shit. I don't know what VRoid is, but I'm not gonna bother with it. Sorry, my cat, of course, has to be annoying right in the middle of me recording. But yeah, we just want to do that. And now our model is complete and everything is where it should be. Or at least it should be like that. If you want to double check, all you have to do is you go back up to here where it says VRM 0, and then you actually want to make sure you're back in the scene and not in your prefab. Select your prefab by clicking on it in this. Go up here and you can, export uni VRM blah blah blah. And you'll come up with this window. And you'll notice it actually looks very similar to the VRoid export thing, except it's going to insist that you include a version on it here. And you can just put whatever number you want, and then it'll be fine and it'll let you export it. So hit export. It'll ask you where you want it. I don't know why it's putting it in things one, but I'm just gonna put it in downloads, and we're gonna put lady test done so we have the original as well. And boom, you're done. And now I'm going to actually open it up in VC Face. Here's VC Face also on my screen, as well as my avatar down here. This just hides the menu and stuff. And I'm gonna add an avatar. It's gonna pop it up here. We're gonna do this one. And we're gonna click here and select. And whoa! Now we have this. And wow, those bones are really funky looking. They're like super sway. Oh my gosh. But you'll notice they're attached to the back. Oh wait. Oh no. Oh no, we've messed this up. So the wings are attached to the back, but the bones are attached to the head. Oops. Okay, we're gonna redo this. Okay. I figured out what we forgot. We forgot a step. We forgot an important step. But I'm kind of glad because it shows you sometimes things don't go perfectly. We might have forgotten a step, and it kind of gives you an idea of what to look for. Typically when I'm testing out, I move my head back and forth, and it shows me if I've missed any piece of the wings that I need to have actually have either done the bone weight transfer on, or this other step, which is just as important as the rest of them. And it also shows that the bones of the wings themselves are actually separate in their movement to the actual wings. They will stretch the mesh, as you saw, with the wings, but they are separate, and that's why you have to do it on both all of the bone pieces and all of the actual hair pieces for the bone weight transfer. But we're back in Unity, and we are actually back in the prefab, and that's important because in Unity, prefabs are like super finicky. Not in that they're complicated to use or anything, but if you try to do this without actually being in the prefab and you're just in the scene, Unity will throw a fit and be like, no. Open the prefab, motherfucker. We're not gonna let you do this. So basically, what you gotta do, and what we forgot to do, is back here in the bones, we want to select all of these hair joints that we transferred the bone weights on. We want to select all of them, and it's nice because you can shift click and select all of them like you might select files in a directory. Excuse me. And right now they're still attached to the head. We want to drag them to the bone that we actually transfer to them. In this case, this is the upper chest. So we're going to drag them there. And now you'll notice if we close all this thing, their root object is the upper chest instead of the head. And this is very important because if you don't do this, you'll see, as we saw, the wings will still move with the head instead of moving with the upper chest like we want them to. So we'll come back here into the scene and we'll export this again and you'll see the difference, like, really. So blah blah blah, export. I've already explained this. You don't need to hear it twice, and if you do, you can always go back in the video. That's why this is a video. So we're gonna save this over again, and we're gonna come back over to VC face, and we're gonna pull this over again and have it let it do its little panic attack. And we're gonna switch avatars, and this should be saved over now, so we don't have to worry about anything. And you'll notice that's what we're looking for. Everything moves on its own. It's attached to the upper chest, so it's gonna move when I like move my shoulders and stuff. Or I guess in this case, it's me moving my head a lot. That moves the shoulders in the avatar. And if I move my head back and forth, everything's moving how it should. Except for the clipping, I can't do much about that I know of, except for mess with things in the bones. And frankly, I don't care enough for that. If you want to edit my VRoid preset for hair, if you want to make it to where things are different, if you downloaded it, feel free to. You bought it, it's yours to mess with now. But yeah, that's how you transfer bone weights from the head of an avatar to a different place. It does not have to be the upper chest, but you will do all of these same steps for whatever place on the VRoid model, whatever bone you want to attach everything to. You will just attach everything to that bone instead, and you will also move all of the bones from the head bone to whatever bone that is. And they need to be rooted under it. You saw that I dragged them onto that bone, and that made them children of that parent bone. That's how the hierarchy works. And yeah, that's basically all. Thank you for watching if you have this far, and I hope this might have helped you. I know it's Easter season, so everyone's making bunny VRoids and perhaps wanting to add rabbit tails. So if you do that, this will help you actually have your rabbit tail in the same spot that you want it to be, if you're watching this for that. So yeah, have a good day, a good night, and I hope everything goes great. Goodbye.